The Panzerkampfwagen 5, Panther, has had just about everything said about it that could possibly be said, but still every year or two somebody decides it would be a great idea to write another book on it. So now we are going to add more fuel to that fire. The Panther medium tank began development in 1941 as a response to Soviet tanks not being nerfed after Barbarossa. The original design was set out to only be 22 tons and the powertrain was built to carry this weight. However, Hitler was afraid that this would make his dick look small and the design ended up being over 40 tons. This came though with some of the best frontal armor and one of the best guns of the whole war, quickscoping Allied tanks at ranges surpassing 3,000 meters with 75mm packets of fascism, garnering the praise of wereabouts everywhere, and some brainlets who still call this thing the first MBT. And although the gun and armor are extremely good, there are still problems with this tank. The main ones cited are with reliability. After the war, the French military, desperate to become a world power again, had 2 armored battalions made up of Panther tanks using those and some Shermans for a good portion of their armored force, since they were too busy collaborating, while all the tank designing the previous 5 years had been going on. And they needed tanks to defend themselves in case the Soviets decided half of Europe wasn't enough. French operators would eventually end up crewing the Panther for about twice as long as the Germans did, with the last battalion being phased out in 1949. About halfway through in 1947 they did a write-up of the Panther going through its shortcomings and strengths and how to get around them. And one of the bigger points they noted was a lack of reliability, notably in the transmission and final drives. The transmission was mostly due to the use of spur gears, which meant that the driver had to be very delicate when driving and could not take advantage of certain features such as neutral steering for fear of blowing up the gears inside the gearbox, rendering the tank a 40-ton paperweight. The final drives also wore out very easily due to lack of strong alloys used in the components. This made the Panther very likely to break down after about 150 kilometers of driving under its own power on average. This came of no shock to the Allies, who found half of the abandoned Panthers in Normandy with evidence of final drive failures. This was probably one of the reasons that the Germans used trains so often to move Panthers from place to place, because 150 kilometers is not that long of a space when you have such delusional dreams of conquest. Another big issue was crew ergonomics. Unlike the mid to late variants of the Sherman, the Panther's commander had no way to turn the turret and could only give verbal commands to his gunner as to where the targets were via an azimuth indicator, from which the gunner would have to sight the target, except the gunner only could see out with his primary sight, and even at low magnification, it's still at magnification, meaning he is still not seeing what he commander sees due to the lack of a unity sight. So you essentially have a commander who can't move giving orders to a gunner who is blind. The French touch on this by saying that it took 20 to 30 seconds longer for a Panther gunner to lay on a target than a Sherman gunner, or depending on the translation, these other 2 things. But in all 3 of them the Panther still does not come out on top. But regardless, the Panther was still a very deadly vehicle on the battlefield, and I think I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching. 1 like equals 1 hour taken off a repair cruise transmission change time.